Second item at the top. We are deeply troubled by recent fighting and violence that is endangering the Armenian community in Kessab, Syria, and has forced many to flee. There are far too many innocent civilians suffering as a result of the war. All civilians, as well as their places of worship, must be protected. As we have said throughout this conflict, we deplore continued threats against Christians and other minorities in Syria. And as you may have seen from the readout of President Obama's conversation with Pope Francis yesterday, they discussed, among other things, the plight of minorities, especially Christians, inside Syria today. We have seen some statements by groups fighting in Kessab saying they will not target civilians and will respect minorities and holy places. We expect those commitments to be upheld. The United States will continue its steadfast support to those affected by violence in Syria and throughout the region, including Syrian Armenians. We have long had concerns about the threat posed by violent extremists, and this latest threat to the Armenian community in Syria only underscores this further.
Regarding this statement that you made about Syrian Armenians, I was just wondering if you have anything update about the situation, or is this a past tense? It's something happened, or I think it's the ongoing
it's an ongoing issue, certainly, that we're concerned about.
And then how you...
But as I noted in my statement, though, there has been some recent fighting and an increase in violence, which is why we wanted to note it specifically today.
So are there, because there are some news reports from different sides regarding this issue, either from the Armenians or from the Turks and from the Syrians in the same time. Are you following this story, I mean this case?
Well, we are. I don't know if you're referring to a specific case. We're certainly following the situation for Armenians inside Syria, for all minorities, including Christians, and know that violent extremists such as ISIL have targeted them, among many people. But we're particularly concerned about these minority communities and want to make sure that their rights are protected.
Besides being concerned, because let me be specific about, are you in touch with any of the governments, including the Turkish government or other UN organization, to figure out exactly, because it's there is a deportation of people taking place in the last week, which is like starting from last week till now. Anything is going on in that regard?
I can check and see who we're talking to. Obviously, we talked to a host of countries in the region, Turkey and others, about a wide range of issues, but I can check on that specifically.
So you don't have any, what you have is just like observation of what's going on, or you have information?
Well, I think we have both, right? We've seen reports, as I said, recent fighting, violence against the Syrian Armenian communities. We see the reports coming out of there. Obviously, we try to get as much information from the ground as possible, as we do in all places in Syria, but it's hard to get. But clearly there have been some very troubling trends lately.
Because according to some reports that those people were Jabhat al-Nusra people. I'm not sure if you mentioned them in the statement or not.
Well, what I'm talking about is extremist groups like ISIL attacking innocent civilians, in this case the Syrian Armenian community, a minority community, as they have with other minority communities, Christian communities and others inside Syria. So this is what I'm talking about, is those kinds of attacks. I know there are a lot of dynamics broadly here in the Syrian conflict, but I was speaking to one specific dynamic.
There is another thing which is related about this. When you mentioned the president and he raised the issue with the Pope, or the Pope raised it with him the issue.
It.
Maybe I'm not, to be more accurate. Is this issue is raised with the Syrian opposition people? Because, it's like sometimes they don't, according to what I heard last week from the ambassador Ford, that definitely they are usually avoiding to condemn publicly what's going on by Islamic groups or a jihadist group in Syria.
Well, let's be clear when we're talking about the opposition, to be very clear that the violence I'm talking about is being perpetrated by groups like ISIL. So not the moderate opposition, not the folks we work with repeatedly and consistently on things inside Syria. I think that the opposition has been very clear in condemning extremism and saying they will fight extremism inside Syria, and that's something they're committed to, absolutely. They've said that for many, many months.
Thank you.
Yes.
On Syria.
Okay.
According to reports in Turkey, the foreign minister, Mr. Davutoglu, planned a provocative act inside Syria, so Turkey has the excuse to invade Syria. Do you want to comment on this?
Are you referring to an alleged phone conversation?
Yes.
As I said yesterday, I don't have anything for you on alleged calls or conversations that are out there among Turkish officials.
Yeah, but Mr.
It's not for me to
Davutoglu,
comment.
Mr. Davutoglu said that the tape is genuine.
Again, not for me to comment on those allegations that are out there.